Okay, so in case you don't know it, last week Corona Render just released the latest version of Corona 12. So in today's video we're gonna talk about the new features in Corona 12. And let's see what is Corona Render bringing to the table in the latest version of Corona 12. And let's jump in. Okay, so as you can see, this is the new frame buffer from Corona Render. As you can see, all the buttons in here are more simplified and they are looking more sleek. So yeah, I think overall it's a good idea, but now we need to learn exactly what are all these buttons doing from the ones that we had before. So the first thing, as you can see, we have this diskette here, which is an old way of saving files, where you can save the image, you can save all the images, or you can save on a CXR. Then you have the next button, which is just a copy of this image to the 3D Studio Max buffer. So as you can see, you're gonna get this. The next one is just a copy of the current image into the display. The next one is the delete button. Easily you can just delete the frame buffer, and the program is going to ask you if you really want to clear the frame buffer. If you give it an OK, it's just going to delete and it's going to start re-rendering the whole image again. The next button is the region button, where you can just make a region and it's going to render only that region. So in this way you can check the details of your scene just for this region. If you delete the region, it's just going, or if you gotta disable it, it's gonna render the whole image in here. The next one is the peak mode. In case you don't know, if you are using the depth of field in your camera settings, you can just click on one of the objects in the scene and it's just gonna focus on that one. And the last one is just to hide this toolbar in here. So yeah, it's you want to see the full image or you just want to see a sidebar in here. I'm just gonna hit pause on this and I'm gonna start the rendering all over again. As you can see, all this side toolbar is looking exactly the same as before. The only cool thing is that you have now here all this beauty, alpha and geometry, z depth, wire color and so on the right side, and you don't have them here on the left side as before. So that's the only improvement that I can see right now. And another thing that it's really cool and you didn't have it before is the fact that after you are creating here a white balance, you can actually move this lower or on top, which was not possible before, and now you can have it. So I can just move the curves here after the simple exposure and my image is gonna change only because of that. So yeah, this is quite cool and I think this is an improvement, and I can just click on here and just move it lower. And yeah, if you want, you can also add the vignette and so on. The bloom and glare is more or less the same as before. We don't have in here, and then you have the state of your image, which is exactly the same. You have the noise level in the same position. History, where you can save different images with different states, so you can yeah, compare them between them and so on. Then you have the distributed rendering that is not used in this case, but you have it in here. And also at the end you have the light mix, which is working exactly the same as before. Okay, we have a new Corona and sky, improved sky. So yeah, as you can see, the sky looks more or less the same as before. You can just change the amount of clouds in here. And yeah, another thing that you have right now is the fact that you can see the Corona sky directly in your viewport, which is a big improvement. In this way, it's going to be much easier to set up your sky. Just clear this, and now let's add another Corona sun in here in this direction, in the new Corona sky. So in the moment that I did that, as you can see, you have a sky that you can see directly on your viewport, which is quite nice to have. Another feature is the fact that right now you can get your sky under the horizon line and you're gonna get a night sky. So yeah, you don't have the stars and all of those things, but it looks very similar with the night sky, as you can probably see in this image. The only thing that you need to change is the exposure, of course, because yeah, having a night view, you need to change the exposure of the image. Is exactly the same also in reality. But there is still one thing they didn't fix. So in the moment I also talked about that on my last version on the Corona 11 and I don't know, it was in Corona Render 10, and I explained back then that in the moment that you have your sky on the lower point, you should get the rays of the sky under the clouds. And I also shown an example of that, as you can see here. And from Corona Render 10 till now, they still didn't fix this. So if you can hear me there, Corona people, please do this. This is important. This is very realistic. This is how it's supposed to be. So if you don't do that, it doesn't make any sense to create your own sky if it can't do the reality. So please, Corona Chaos Group, Corona Legion, hear me out. Do this. We need this. We need the sun when it's lower to heat the clouds underneath, because this is how the reality works. So yeah, that's kind of all for the Corona sky. Is it improved? Yeah, I don't know. For some people probably it's gonna be more than enough, but for me, to be honestly, I'm almost never using the Corona sky, because if you want reality, you need to use an HDRI. Anyway, let's move forward with the rest of the things. And I think one of the newest and most important thing is the ability to export all of this to Chaos Vantage. So Chaos Vantage, for those who don't know yet, Chaos Vantage is a software. Chaos Vantage is a piece of software coming from Chaos Group, and you can actually create real-time rendering, which is quite amazing, but you need to have a very good graphic card. As you can see, you can move around in a huge scene, but you need to have a huge graphic card, and you can create renders in no time, in a couple of seconds. So in this way you can actually create animations and move forward with your skills of 3D rendering to the next step. Otherwise it's quite hard to render animation in V-Ray or even in Corona Render, because you need a lot of computers or a lot of processors to do that. So anyway, let's see how you can do that in with Corona. So the first thing that you need to do is to go to performance, to system, and here to the system you can actually export the scene for the Vantage. So I'm just gonna do that, just gonna go and export my scene. I'm gonna save this as Chaos Vantage. The moment that I did that, it's just going to take a couple of seconds until it's going to export all of this, and it's also going to show me all the errors that I have in the scene for this. So I'm gonna ignore all of them for now, and now it's just parsing this, parsing the scene. Okay, so now we have the file saved for Vantage. Let's open that. Okay, so as you can see, now we have the imported scene in your file. Is it looking amazing? Yeah, I don't know, not yet. You can also use a texture in here or a solid color for the background, or let's go back to the physical sky. So the first thing that I would like to do is to change the sun size, and I will change the sun position, the altitude, and I will take up some clouds so I can get some sun directly into my scene. I will check the direction of the sun. As you can see, you can play directly in your viewport with that, which is quite amazing. And then here, these are the camera settings. So if you want to change the field of view, if you want to have it with focal length, so you can change this by millimeters, perspective or orthographic. You can also have it in orthographic mode, and then you can have different presets for different aspect ratio, vertical tilt correction, camera clipping, motion blur, in case you have any animation into the file. And then we have the color correction tab for your scene, change the exposure and the filmic tone map in here. And now I have the shoulder strength, and now I know that I can change the exposure bias to get more or less the correct image. I can go back a little bit, change the focal length, because I can see there some stuff that is happening. And then I can go here to the materials, and I guess this is my material for this thing here, and this is how my material are actually looking. There is one big thing you need to know about it, is the fact that if in 3D Studio Max you have a map on your, so for example here for the floor, because my floor is quite pink. So let me check the material for this floor. So as you can see, I used the color correcting here for that floor, and unfortunately it came, and also because I'm using here a new Corona mapping randomizer that is actually resetted here. But anyway, in my file here it's all getting this pinkish color, which is probably this one. So I can just drag and drop a different material if I don't like it. So yeah, to get the best results into Vantage, you need to have very simple material. In this way you can be sure that I'm just gonna change that to a different material just to have it fixed for now. So yeah, as you can see, also this one, which is probably this. But yeah, anyway, at least you can see what you're going to see. So I made a couple of changes in here. So this is without the filmic tone map, this is with the tone map. Here you can play more or less with your tone map. I will just explain very fast how this is actually working. So the first things are the camera view. So after you're doing all these settings for your camera, you can also create here another camera from this view. So I just did that, and then these are the settings of the tone mapping for your and the color corrections for your view. So you can check and you can play with all of this according to your desire and exactly what you like and what you would like to have in here. But what you need to understand is that the fact that all these materials are, if they are very complex made in Corona, they're not gonna look the same in Vantage for now, but probably Vantage is evolving every day, so probably in the future it's gonna look much better. Then you have the loot. You can apply here a loot if you want. If you have all kind of loots, you can just apply them in here. Please let me know in the comments if you would like to learn how to create your own loots in the future. Then you have the bloom and glare, which the same is working more or less the same. So you can have the intensity, or you can just take it out, threshold, iteration, and so on. Then you have the hue saturation in case you need it in here if you want to desaturate or hue your image. The color balance, white balance, where you can make your image warmer or cooler, and the chromatic aberration. And the last thing is the render settings. So how is the render settings is working and how many bounces you're using and so on. So the first thing is the rendering, the noise threshold, how big you want to have the noise threshold before the image stops rendering. Then the GI and how many bounces do you want to have. Of course, if you have more bounces, you're gonna have a better quality. If you have less, you're gonna have less quality. Then reflective, the GI in here, if you use full. As you can see in here, it's showing you the graphic card that you're using. In my case, is an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4090 and is using 12.99 gigabytes of that RAM that this graphic card has, which is 24 gigabytes of RAM. Let me go back to the materials. Here you have the reflections and the code of the materials and how they are working. How many reflection you can add them. In this case, is 2 bounces, and refractions 8 bounces. Then you have the textures. As you can see, the shading graph overlays, and you also have the advanced for this, where you can play in a more advanced way on how your render is going to look. Then in here we have the environment, which I just talked about in the beginning. In this case we used a physical sky, but you can also use a solid color, and you can also have a texture. So in this case you can apply an HDRI to this, the sun. So now we have an HDRI that is overcasting all of this. I can have this as an sRGB or different types overcast. Here I can just change that to also to a different environment, and you can load in here any type of texture, so or HDRI. Then we have the physical sky that I just rendered this with the physical sky, and here you have all these different types of skies that you have also in Corona render or in V-Ray. Then you have the sun, of course, that we just talked about, where you can apply different types of intensities, sizes of the sun. As you can see, now it's looking more unrealistic, but if you change the size, it's getting more realistic, because yeah, it depends on how many clouds you have on the sky. So these are the settings for the sun, where you can change the altitude, azimuth, which is the position of the sky in the scene. Then you have the clouds for the sky, on and off. You can add the density, and this is also going to change the way of your sun is actually working. So this is quite a cool thing. If I change the altitude, as you can see what I was talking about, the sun and sky, the fact that in the moment that the altitude is quite low, so it's almost to zero, so it's 4 degrees, the sun is not going under the sky. So Chaos Group and Corona people and V-Ray people that are working on this program, please remember, and the sun needs to illuminate under the clouds if the sun is very low. This is quite an important thing to know, but yeah, anyway, I'll just leave it as it is for now. As you can see, almost there. Now it's even better. And yeah, here you have all kind of details and options for the clouds. Then you have the wind that we can't see in this option. Then the fog, and you can enable like a simple fog in here. Of course, this is going to make your render to move slower. This fog visibility has 10,000 kilometers, so or is only 10. Yeah, it's 10 kilometers, so if you really want to see something, you can have 0.5 for example, and now we can see the fog, which has a fog height of 500 meters in this case, fog start distance from 0, or it can start further away from here for example. So if you want to see, to have everything that's in front of you, yeah, you can just play in here. You have also all kind of other simple fog in here. Then you have the ambient light intensity. You can add a lot of ambient light, and this is gonna affect your shadows everywhere. So in case your shadows are quite dark, you can play with this and you can fix the shadow color. And the background in this case is same as the environment. You can also have a solid color. So yeah, this is for use of refraction and mirror reflection. So yeah, you can use it for that. Then you have the lights that are in your scene that I can't really see any of them right now because we don't have any lights in here. Then we have all the geometry from our scene, the materials of our scene, and you can also use the clay mode if you want to see your scene with the clay mode. And the last one is the scene state, where you can have different scene states according to your desire. And the last thing that we have in here, and of course let's also use that, and is the rendering. And to render an image, you just need to go here to this button, and here you have all kind of settings. So you can use the camera, one of the cameras that you already used, which were in here. And anyway, we're gonna use one from this view with a quality sample of 502. I'm not gonna do many changes in here right now because I would like to create a tutorial about this in the future. And I'm gonna save render test 01, save as a PNG. Of course, it's saving the PNGs. Here we're gonna see the memory needed to render this, and the quality, I'm just gonna use an ultra to see the best that we can get. You can also have the render elements. This is the resolution. You can use a camera exposure, and then I'm gonna use start. And now let's see how fast it's going to render. So it said in the beginning that is 30 seconds for this image, which is quite fast, I would say, for an image like this to have it render in 30 seconds. Is an HD. So 1920 by 1080. Let's also see the image. Yeah, this is the final render, 1920 by 1080 in 30 seconds. I think this is quite a good quality. The image overall is not looking as the one that we had in Corona, but I also didn't use the same HDRI as in there. But if I'm going to open a scene, an interior scene, for example, I have in here. So for example, if we open this scene that was created in Corona render, and you can see the quality of this scene, which is looking like this, and we would like to have something similar in Chaos Vantage. So open this, save it, and open it. So we're just gonna go and just stop this and go to the system, export this scene, save, open this in Chaos Vantage. The only thing is that if your HDRI is very big, it's not going to be is not going to be supported by Chaos Vantage. So I'm just gonna change this to physical sky just to get an image in there, and then I will just change the intensity and change the horizon offset, and in here I will just change the exposure, or maybe I can just change this texture to a different HDRI, maybe this one. Okay, this one is working much better. Let me just change the, and if I add the filmic tone map in here, just let me change this to physical sky. Just use the overcast, and with the filmic tone map you can just bring some more light in here or less, and add a LUT. Should be more or less the same one that we have in the other image: bloom, white balance, chromatic aberration, and so on. And yeah, noise threshold, I will just add a little bit more bounces in here to have more light, because it's an interior, so it's better to have more light. Just change a little bit, and then I'm just gonna create faster render, and I will just go and render test 2 interior, and I will just use the quality and so on and start rendering the image. This is the one from Corona, and this is the one from Vantage. So yeah, this one from Vantage, the one from Corona, is quite a fast render, so you can't see everything, all the details as well. But as you can see, the one in Vantage is looking quite good. I'll say it's very usable, and to show it to your client. So for a render that it took 30 seconds, this is quite amazing, to be honest. Yeah, the one that we had, the exterior one, yeah, I think it's definitely a very big improvement for Corona to have this importer to Vantage. So let's move to the next thing. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about, a new feature that is quite important and is definitely a game changer, is the fact that now we have a brush where we can a brush that you can use it for your scatter objects. Let's see how is that actually working. So let's add a chaos scatter in here, and then to this scatter we can just add the objects where we would like to scatter this. So I'm gonna add all of this, and now I will add my objects, which are these leaves that I just took from that. And in here I'm just gonna take all of this out and use an instance editor and use the brush. And here with this brush bigger, I can just start adding objects. I can add more or less, and I can add collision to them. You can also erase them if you want. So yeah, this is the scatter brush that we have right now, which could be quite useful. The next thing that we have in here is the Corona pattern. So if you remember, at one moment I made a tutorial about how the Corona pattern is actually working when I'm modeling a pattern in here, and I got all kinds of problems by connecting all these patterns together and make them work in with the Corona pattern. So in this version now you can use a helper, and you can crop that pattern that we just made using this helper. So you can adjust it with whatever you want, and in the end you can get the best result. And the second improvement for this is the fact that now you can use a map as the base object or the pattern object for the UV mapping, as shown in their video. Okay, and the last thing is the fact that now the materials from Corona Rendered, you can have them also in Chaos Cosmos, and you can download them from there, and you can have them forever on your computer. They're gonna discontinue the Corona Materials browser from the next version, so from now on Chaos Cosmos is going to be the main library for your Corona Render, and probably also for V-Ray. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Give us a thumbs up, and see you in the next one. Bye.